Welcome to Cause Before Symptom, uncovering the real cabal and spiritual forces that are controlling the world. And now, here is your host, James Carner.
Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is February 20th, 2026, and tonight's episode is all about the Board of Peace, what Gaza is actually being transitioned into. Now, a video has been circulating online, claims that a private international body called the Board of Peace is being established to replace the United Nations and control Gaza's future through its own funding, governance, and stabilization force. Rather than dismissing or accepting these claims outright, this broadcast examines the primary documents now publicly available. Not saying that it's real. I'm saying we're going to dig into what the documents say before we go absolute bonkers into a conspiracy theory, which it's easy to do. But I want to make sure we are grounded first. A February 2026 UK Parliament House of Commons research briefing confirms that the Board of Peace was announced as part of Stage 2 of the October 2025 Gaza redevelopment framework endorsed by the United Nations Security Council, endorsed by the UN. Now, Resolution 2803 further welcomes the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration with international legal personality tasked with coordinating funding and redevelopment in Gaza until a reformed Palestinian Authority can resume governance. Participating states are authorized to establish operational entities to implement reconstruction and stabilization efforts under this framework. While the existence and role of the Board of Peace within Gaza's transition phase are well documented, additional claims circulating online regarding private immunity structures, treasury powers, or independent authority are not stated within the official resolution or parliamentary briefing. This broadcast compares viral claims to primary source law and to clarify what it is actually planned for in Gaza via the redevelopment and governance transition. So let's not freak out yet. I'm going to play the video here soon, but it's not well documented yet, not enough to where we can say, okay, here is what's happening. Now, there's one thing in there that really tickles my ear, and that's Kazakhstan, Astana, which have contributed $1 billion to be on the board of members. I think that's interesting because they're going to be the ones that are going to usher in the hydrogen revolution. That's what I believe, just based on their city structure and the big hydrogen ball that's downtown. But that's a whole nother story. Just because Kazakhstan is on the board of members does not mean that this is going to be replacing the United Nations. Now, maybe later down the road, that's their plan. Okay, but we need documentation. We need proof. We need data. We need whistleblowers, and none are out there at this time because it's still brand new. So we need to chill out, honey bunny. We need to take a step back and not freak out yet, okay? There's nothing to freak out about right now. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Shout out to everybody on the live chat Rumble. Number one warrior again, ding, 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 is Scorpion, going for the world record. Scorpion says, hey, y'all, glad to be back here. Love all of you. Well, we love you too. And number two warrior is Boots Hafner. Boots stating, hello, it's time to rumble with our host of the most, James Carner. That's me. Voice of the Rumble airwaves and creator of ElitePotion.com. which isn't selling much, unfortunately. Hello, Warrior family. Glad to see y'all here. And let's help out our host with that thumbs up button. Yes, thank you. If you could all do me a favor, take your thumb, go to where I'm going, and hit the X, and then hit thumbs up, and then hit live chat, just like I did. And you won't lose your spot, I promise. Thank you, Boots, for the reminder. Number 3 Warrior is Cork Dog saying, good to see you, Pastor. Well, it's good to see you too, Cork Dog. I'm assuming Corkies? I don't know. Names are strange when they come up here, and it's hard to analyze what the meaning is behind it. I'm assuming 2 Corky dogs, but that's just me. All right, let's get into wild and crazy breaking news.
Welcome to Shitty Breaking News with your host, James Carner, offering his shitty opinion.
Remember, this is just an opinion show. When I do my regular show after the breaking news, then I have research to back up what I'm saying. But sometimes I get emotional when I do the breaking news because, well, I think it's funny. Okay. Now, some of you may not have a sense of humor as I do. And some of you understand my sense of humor and some of you don't. But as you listen to the breaking news, don't take me seriously. Go do your own research. This is just stuff that pops in my head when I'm doing it because I used to try to do this segment all written out and make it look nice and clean, but it's not working for me. I don't know why. So I'm just going to continue doing it, the shitty way. I'm just going to read what I see on the Google News top stories. There's only 6 of them. And then I'm going to offer a shitty opinion. And maybe every now and then I may go into the story and read a little bit more. But honestly, I just don't care much about propaganda. So here it is. Trump administration news. Well, SCOTUS ruled against his tariffs. And so now he's putting together a new tariff on top of the old tariffs that were ruled unconstitutional. I don't know. And he's saying, well, tough shit. And the $160 billion that came from Trump's tariffs, well, the Supreme Court didn't even say where to put all that money. So it's very vague. Trump's pissed. Not my problem. Trump says he is considering limited military strike on Iran. And Iran's just sitting there going, bring it, we want bombing. That's all I can tell. They have no way of defending themselves against our, stealth bombers. We can just go in there and boom, 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 boom. And Russia's just like, shit. I didn't see him coming. Well, maybe they do, but Russia's not shooting them down. Okay, how many times have we flown into Iran and blew shit up? Internationally, is that legal? Well, we did it. And nobody's suing us. Well, maybe they are. It's just not making any news. But look, if you understand Iran, it's always been used as a boogeyman. Russia has used it as a boogeyman, and so has America. Well, Israel. And northern part of Iran is controlled by Russia as they suck oil out of their ground and sell it on the black market. And the Iranians make a little. Russia makes a little, but it's completely under the radar. They don't talk about it because it's on the black market. Southern Iran is controlled by Israel, and that is more the commodities market, all kinds of agricultural and goods, etc. And Israel makes a profit off of what they sell. Now, Iran has always been divided into northern and southern. They've just never made it really official. Okay. There just isn't any stability there to take control of their country back when the CIA took control of it back in the 60s. It's basically just being used as a proxy to scare everyone into submission. So you can choose to be scared of Iran and their up-and-coming nuclear weapons that they've been developing since the 60s and just can't seem to get there. I don't even know why they're still using Iran, but it's working. And they're going to continue using Iran. And poor Iran, because the Iranian people are really nice. It's just their leaders are working for the superpowers, and superpowers are playing them like a fiddle. Officials investigate a deadly California avalanche for possible criminal negligence. Huh. Did someone create the avalanche? I do not know. Did someone purposely know an avalanche is going to come and then send out a bunch of hikers and saying, don't worry, it's safe, there's no avalanche. I don't know. But we'll find out later. Former Prince Andrew's arrest upends the royal family's effort to move past all of his transgressions. It forces him. It's forcing us to move past this now. It's forcing us. It upends a royal family effort to move past this. I don't buy it, dude. I think this is just my opinion. I think all of these royal families are Satanists. And they all do exactly what Prince Andrew did, but Prince Andrew was just stupider than them. He gets caught all the time. That's Prince Andrew, but what do I know? Cork Dog says, so what makes it a black market? It's probably more legit than the U.S. trade. Well, what makes it a black market is that it's oil being sold outside of OPEC and international laws. The United Nations and all the other nations agreed to a certain type of regulation of selling oil, where they will tax and regulate and profit off of the majority of oil going in and out of whatever OPEC countries are part of that. And so black market, it just bypasses all that together. There are no regulations. They just pump oil and sell it to the highest bidder. So that's what they're doing. And that's not regulated, right? Or not under the control of the Orsini clan. So the Lee family has to do these type of embargoes, just like they were shipping oil from Venezuela under another flag. But really, it was going directly to Russia, and they got caught. Well, they're breaking international agreements, but instead of turning it into a full-scale war, Russia and China let it go. China was the one that put in the full infrastructure in Venezuela for them to be able to suck the oil out quickly and sell it quickly. That's an infrastructure, right? It's not easy just to go and drill and suck and do it safely. But northern Iran, they're going in unsafely, sucking it, and people are dying, and they don't care, okay? That's black market regulations. There are none. Potential blizzard in Boston could drop a foot of snow or more on Monday. Well, you better pack the car in the garage, all right? Where snow could be measured in inches or feet in the west could be this weekend. So 2 big top stories. Snow on the east. Well, here comes winter. Finally, it took a long time. Did the groundhog see its tail yet? I don't know. I don't give a shit. And that is breaking news. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Board of Peace, what Gaza is actually being transitioned into based on actual documentation that we've been able to find. Is it real? Is it not? Well, I don't care. This is just what I found.
Why do 75% of people feel exhausted all the time? The answer might surprise you. In the 1920s, Standard Oil decided to dive into medicine. They pushed synthetic petroleum into our drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, which fight off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out by crude oil. But here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Introducing Elite Potion, the world's top detox program. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit elitepotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
Hey, George, why is the IRS taking so much of my money?
Why would you bring that binding contract onto my vessel?
I thought we were all in the same boat and pay our taxes. You mean taxation without representation? You should have never worn a red coat on this ship with those ridiculous forms. You don't even live in D.C.
I've been rolling in my grave since 1913. Why are you binding yourself to a contract to Washington, D.C. that has no bearing on you? For this reason, we set the 13 colonies free from this type of tax. Do you know what this document is? It protects you from a direct tax from the national government. Which of these would you rather live by? What about you? Do you also sign binding contracts every April 15th? Click the link below and regain your freedom.
All right, we're back. So, the border peace, what Gaza is actually being transitioned into. We're going to learn about all of this detail tonight. Now, a video has been circulating online. I believe it was Damon, again, sent me this video, and I thought it was worthy of getting in front of the disinformation before people start to freak out. Okay? It claims that a private international body called the Board of Peace is being established to replace the United Nations and control Gaza's future through its own funding, governance, and stabilization force. Rather than dismissing or accepting these claims outright, right off the bat, just like it's easy to do, tonight we're going to examine the primary documents that are now publicly available. And there's not a lot of them. But a February 2026 UK Parliament House of Commons research briefing, it confirms that the Board of Peace was announced as part of Stage 2 of the October 2025 Gaza redevelopment framework, endorsed by the United Nations Security Council. If it's to replace the United Nations, why are they endorsing it? Okay? Let's not freak out here. Now, Resolution 2803, this was written in 2025, further welcomes the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration with international legal personality tasked. It's its own international legal personality and tasked with coordinating funding and redevelopment in Gaza until a reformed Palestinian Authority can resume governance. Now, it's easy to read this and just assume that the boogeyman is going to do all kinds of nasty stuff and use this to take over the world. Well, things like that do happen. But right now, it's not making any logical sense that Gaza would be that. The place where I would see the next UN would be somewhere like Kazakhstan, where they've been showing us what the future is going to be, the future utopia of green energy. Not Gaza. It doesn't make any sense. Now, participating states are authorized to establish operational entities to implement reconstruction and stabilization efforts under this framework. Now, while the existence and role of the Board of Peace within Gaza's transition phase are documented, additional claims circulating online regarding private immunity structures, treasury powers, or independent authority are not stated within the official resolution or parliamentary briefing. It's also along with the UK and their blessing. So this broadcast compares viral claims to primary source law and to clarify what is actually planned for Gaza's redevelopment and governance transition. So before fear here is allowed to move through the conscience, the claim must be defined with precision. This video, which is across multiple platforms now, it's alleging that a private international body known as the Board of Peace has been created to replace the United Nations and assume control over Gaza's future redevelopment, governance, and security. Now, the video, which we'll play in a second, further suggests that this body may operate with legal immunity, independent funding authority, and its own stabilization force, functioning outside the traditional structure of international law. That's the claim. But I've been showing you that the Bank for International Settlements has been using their stuff to control other central banks. And it doesn't seem like Bank for International Settlements are involved in this other than just maybe loaning money. But that's another thing I can research more. Again, this is just research from today that I did. Okay. It does bear further investigation, but I'm going off of what all of the dynasties have put out there so far for everyone to see. Now, that's the claim, and tonight's task is not to affirm it, not to reject it, or not even reinterpret it through political loyalty, okay? Tonight's task is to test it against primary source documentation. Within the last 48 hours, 2 separate institutional documents have been obtained and reviewed. The first is a February 2026 House of Commons research briefing issued by the United Kingdom Parliament examining Gaza's redevelopment phase and the role of an entity referred to as the Board of Peace, or BOP. BOP. The second is United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803, adopted on 17th of November of 2025, which endorses the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict and welcomes the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration tasked with coordinating funding and redevelopment in Gaza until governance can be returned to a reformed Palestinian Authority. Now, these are not opinion pieces. These are institutional policy documents. If they get it wrong, they can get sued. So this is what they have out there. I'm sorry. I know you all want to see the end of the world, but it's not looking like that's happening. Now, the question before this broadcast is not whether Gaza will be rebuilt. It is really who is authorized to coordinate that redevelopment, under what administrative structure, and for how long that structure is intended to operate before control is transferred back to Palestinian authorities. See, that's another key thing here. They're giving it back to the Palestinians, but not after they take control of the land. Now, the video is going to be played in full, and then the claims made within it will be compared to the language contained in Resolution 2803 and the UK parliamentary briefing in order to determine what is documented, what is inferred, and what remains unsupported by the available evidence. Because if Gaza is entering a transitional governance phase administered by an internationally endorsed body, that is not a matter of speculation. It is a matter of record. Here is that video.
We are not taking this Board of Peace seriously enough. I just did a deep dive, and my God, please stay with me on this one. It's a little like how we reacted to Space Force before we knew it was permanent, except this one is on a whole different level. So the board consists of 6 members, including a chairman for life, which is, of course, Donald Trump, and 5 other board members, which are Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, Tony Blair, Mark Rowan, who runs Apollo Global Management, and Steve Witkoff. It's supposed to be what they're calling a private sector-led alternative to the United Nations. The board is set up as a private treasury model, much like the UN and the World Bank. Now, the chairman for life, Donald Trump, has exclusive authority to create, modify, or dissolve subsidiary entities and approve all administrative directives, so full control over everything. If this was a U.S. corporation, this setup would be illegal, but it gets a whole lot worse. One of the first executive orders that Trump signed on January 16th of 2025 was Executive Order 14275. This designates the Board of Peace as a public international organization. This gives the board and the funds that it holds the same legal privileges, tax exemptions, and immunities as the UN, completely shielded from judicial oversight and seizure by federal courts, if we were to actually try and have accountability someday. Membership on the board is really simple, pay to play, $1 billion. And so far, the countries that have contributed are Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Morocco, Bahrain, Uzbekistan, and Kuwait. And it was just announced today that you, the American taxpayer, is going to be contributing $10 billion. to a fund exclusively controlled by Donald Trump, even if he's not president anymore. Now, here's where things start to get pretty scary. The first area is with crypto. Thanks to the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, or the Genius Act, passed by Congress, the Board of Peace is designed to utilize stablecoin infrastructure. And Trump's own crypto venture, World Liberty Financial, is the primary vehicle. And the UAE bought 49% of World Liberty Financial 4 days before Trump was inaugurated. And a significant portion of the $17 billion that's already been contributed is being converted into USD1, Trump's stablecoin. And not only that, but the board can actually mint USD1 against US treasuries. And so they can spend funds without it ever even touching a traditional bank. And of course, the first place they're looking to do this is Gaza. They're calling it a Gaza relief package. But what it is an investment fund to build 200 hotels and 400,000 new homes in Gaza, completing the genocide. Now, the last part is probably something Scott Jennings would say gets my knickers in a twist. The fund has its own paramilitary force called the International Stabilization Force, or ISF. It's commanded by U.S. Major General Jasper Jeffries III, and it already has pledges of 20,000 soldiers and 12,000 police officers, mostly coming from Indonesia, Egypt, and Jordan. And to go back to Gaza, there are already plans to build a 5,000-person military base over 350 acres in Gaza. So even if we were to succeed in getting Trump out of there, he can sit around as chairman of the Board of Peace with full diplomatic immunity, a shit ton of funds, and his own army. Let that sink in.
So, what should we expect of this? The video currently circulating here, this presents a series of assertions regarding the establishment and authority of a body referred to as the Board of Peace. And according to the speaker, this entity has been formed as a private multinational governance structure intended to oversee redevelopment efforts in Gaza following the cessation of hostilities. Now, the video characterizes the board as operating outside traditional international institutions and suggests that it may serve as an alternative to the United Nations in the administration of post-conflict reconstruction. Now, the speaker further alleges that membership within this body is contingent upon financial contribution, and that participating states or entities may obtain decision-making influence through capital investment rather than treaty-based participation. This claim implies that governance authority could be structured around financial commitments rather than traditional diplomatic representation, raising questions about how redevelopment priorities might be determined and who would ultimately exercise oversight during the transition phase. Additional claims are made regarding legal immunities, governance authority, and the ability to coordinate security or stabilization operations within the territory during the redevelopment period. The video suggests that the board may function with privileges comparable to those granted to recognized international organizations, including the capacity to enter into agreements, manage redevelopment funding, and support support the deployment of an international stabilization force tasked with maintaining security during the reconstruction process. So, in describing the board's intended function, the video implies that Gaza may be governed through an externally supervised transitional administrative framework until local institutions are deemed capable of resuming control. That's always how it works, right? The suggestion is redevelopment planning, municipal services, infrastructure restoration, and economic reactivation would be managed under this structure for a defined period of time, with governance responsibilities transferred back to Palestinian authorities only after specific reform benchmarks have been satisfied. Now, the video also raises the possibility that participating states could coordinate funding mechanisms, redevelopment initiatives, and stabilization planning through the board itself rather than through existing United Nations agencies or traditional international or aid frameworks. Now, this framing has led some viewers to question whether such an arrangement would operate parallel to established peace-building institutions or whether it would represent a temporary administrative alternative design specifically for Gaza's redevelopment phase. Let me take a step back here. Kazakhstan put in $1 billion into it, okay? Kazakhstan is against the Orsini family. They're with the Lee family. Why would Kazakhstan invest $1 billion and be on the board other than for an investment purpose? Remember, Trump's going to turn it into a resort. And they may, through time, build the Ben Gurion Canal to compete against the Suez, which is and has been controlled by China now. So what I'm seeing here, just me personally, is just a restructuring from the old order to another order. And the old order was whoever was in, whoever was in control of more of the world, which was the Orsini. What we're seeing is the restructuring of gaining back what the Orsini lost. Okay, under the Orsini command, they've lost all kinds of countries, especially in South America, like Venezuela. And so this is a repositioning for the West, and the East is actually, which Kazakhstan is part of the Belt and Road Initiative, which they want to be a superpower. They want China to be the #1 economic superpower. But they're not going to be working together with, and it's not like the Orsini family doesn't know that the Kazakhstan, Lee family under the Breakspear reign or torch is entering into this agreement as a spy. They would know. This really looks more like an investment plan and a moneymaker, right? Because, hey, what better way to hide genocide by building Disneyland? That's pretty much what I see. Build a resort, a place where everyone can come and walk on the land with the blood-stained women, children, and senior citizens. Genocide. Now, taken together, these assertions have generated concern regarding the legal status of the Board of Peace, the scope of its authority, the criteria for state participation, and the potential implications of externally supervised guidance during the reconstruction process. And questions have also been raised about how such a structure would interact with existing international institutions, including the United Nations, and whether redevelopment funding and stabilization planning would be coordinated through traditional multilateral channels. Now, the purpose of this segment here, it's to examine these assertions in light of institutional documentation and determine which elements are supported by primary source policy language and which are not reflected in the available resolutions and parliamentary briefings that have now been reviewed. A House of Commons research briefing issued by the United Kingdom Parliament in February of 2026, just on the 17th, just 3 days ago, confirms that a body referred to as the Board of Peace was announced in January 2026 as a part of Stage 2 of the October 2025 Comprehensive Plan addressing Gaza's post-conflict redevelopment phase. This framework, which was endorsed by the United Nations Security Council in November, just recently in 2025, outlines a staged transition intended to stabilize the territory following the cessation of hostilities and begin the process of infrastructure reconstruction and governance reform. Now, according to the briefing, the Board of Peace is tasked with coordinating redevelopment funding. This is why they're asking whoever wants to be on the board, give us money. So they're going to take that money and they're going to build And if you give money, you're going to get a share of the hotels and everything else that's going to be built there, the Fantasyland, the Disneyland for adults. It's just another place where they're going to do their satanic ritual abuse. I'm speculating. Now, Palestinian civil administration here, they're supporting the transition from a militant administered governance toward a technocratic Palestinian civil administration. So they're going to try to turn this into a smart city. And this transitional administration phase is designed to operate for a defined period of time. So they're even saying this isn't indefinite. They have a timeline of a couple of years, or maybe more, I don't know. Now, during which the municipal services, public infrastructure restoration, and economic reactivation programs may be implemented under international supervision. So the United Nations is recognizing it, the UK is recognizing it, and they're allowing it. And the same document indicates that the redevelopment framework provides for the formation of the Palestinian Governing Committee composed of technocratic representatives responsible for day-to-day civil administration. Now, this committee, it's intended to manage public services, utilities, and redevelopment programs within Gaza during the transition phase, while broader funding, coordination, and stabilization planning remain subject to oversight at the board level. They went in, they destroyed, literally, they flattened the entire place, and now they're rebuilding. And they're going to make money off of it. This is what it is. It's not going to be a Security Council headquarters for a new United Nations. It's not looking like it. It doesn't make any sense if Kazakhstan is going to jump in. It just doesn't, because Kazakhstan is not a part of Trump and his people. Now, in addition to redevelopment planning, the briefing references proposals for the establishment of an international stabilization force intended to support demilitarization efforts and provide security guarantees during reconstruction activities. Does that sound like an army? Well, this force, you can call it an army, I guess, would operate alongside redevelopment initiatives to ensure that infrastructure projects and municipal services can be restored without interference from armed groups. So are they going to have tanks? Are they going to have planes? Are they going to have ships? It doesn't say anything like that. But jumping to a conclusion, oh my God, they're going to have their own army. They're going to have their own United Nations thing. Why Gaza? Makes no sense. So the document further notes that participating states have agreed to join the redevelopment framework and assist in implementation efforts, and that some governments have expressed concern that the mandate assigned to the Board of Peace may overlap with functions traditionally carried out by the United Nations peacebuilding or reconstruction bodies. Now, these concerns reflect questions regarding the administrative relationship between the transitional framework and existing international institutions during Gaza's redevelopment phase. And just to let you know, at the end of this, I'm going to break it all down in 8th grader terms so everyone can understand what's really going on over there. But this is how I think. So I'm going to put things together in my own brain, because really this whole show is about me putting together all of my research that I've done and trying to make sense out of finding the truth. So the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803, it was adopted in November. It formally endorses the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict and to provide institutional context for the establishment of the Board of Peace referenced in the previous parliamentary briefing. Now, the resolution acknowledges the post-conflict situation in Gaza as a matter affecting regional peace and security and calls for the implementation of redevelopment and governance transition measures consistent with international legal principles. So the United Nations is going to regulate it, if that makes sense. And they're going to they're calling for implementation of a redevelopment governance transition. So they're calling for the measures, but they're going to also help with it. Now, within the text of the resolution, the Security Council welcomes the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration with international legal personality tasked with setting the redevelopment framework and coordinating funding for Gaza's reconstruction. And this administrative role is intended to operate until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed a reform program sufficient to securely and effectively resume governance responsibilities within the territory. So Israel, through Trump, is going to get their way. What Israel wants from Gaza is nothing but kill those people. That's done. And bring in the Ben Gurion Canal. Well, that's going to happen. They need it. They need to compete. They need to compete unless they want to go to war with Egypt and compete with the Suez Canal, which China is getting all of the rewards from. So that's really what they want the Gaza Strip for. And Gaza is going to be to take your eyes off of that future plan of bringing in a canal. They want to put a nice place for everyone to live and then install their own puppet masters to control it who are Palestinian and maybe give it a flag. I don't know. But it's definitely not, or it doesn't look like, turning into an international body or land that has its own jurisdiction and does not report to any international group like the United Nations. So the language indicates that redevelopment and governance transition within Gaza are not expected to occur immediately through the pre-existing local administration institutions. Instead, the resolution anticipates an interim period during which reconstruction funding, infrastructure planning, and municipal restoration may be coordinated externally through a transitional administrative framework designed to support stabilization and reform efforts. So that means, okay, we're not going to put an army together and start, cleaning up all the mess and killing more people. We're going to hold off on putting together our little security task force to protect the workers with concrete while they start building. Before we do all of that, we're going to get the money raised, and that's what the $1 billion is. Hey, who wants to invest? And the investment is going to be a document that says you invest $1 billion, you're going to get back $3 billion or something like that. Boot says natural gas also what they want. True, but I don't think Israel's ready to start using that natural gas and start selling it. Israel, by using the United States, they're not going to touch that land and start drilling for natural gas or oil. Remember, that's God's land. That's the Israelites' land. They're not going. It's there, but if they start drilling in it, then it's not going to be a valuable resource for Israel. Period. So I don't see that as the main play here. That's just my opinion. I'm just a dummy from Oregon. Whatever, but they definitely want that Ben Gurion Canal. Now, the resolution further underscores the importance of resuming humanitarian assistance and cooperation with the Board of Peace and cooperating organizations, including the United Nations agencies and international relief bodies. So the United Nations is going to help coordinate and bring in peace efforts, to basically clean up Palestine and get it ready for building. And this provision places redevelopment coordination and aid distribution within a transitional administrative framework designed to manage reconstruction activities during the interim governance phase. Now, they were saying resorts. They never said anything about a international building where leaders of the world meet. It says nothing about that. So where did that come from? And this guy's video, man, it's a shock and awe. You're like, oh my God. He makes it sound like it's all real. He puts pieces together like, yeah, this really is happening. But it's not making any worldly sense to me. So thanks to Damon, he sent this to me. I had to put this up again to show you guys, look, man, these videos, they're unhealthy for us. Okay. Could they be doing something like that? Yeah, just like they did with the Bank for International Settlements. It wasn't set up to be the central bank of central banks, but they turned it into it. And sure, they may have plans to turn Gaza and that body of land into an international, body that doesn't report to anyone. It may be. But for right now, we don't see it. There's no evidence of it. And I can't just say that's a possibility, because there should be somebody who's got a paperwork trail to show what they really want to do with it in the future. We're just not seeing it. I don't see it yet. So this is what we found today. Now, these arrangements may include the establishment of operational entities possessing international legal personality, bring in lawyers, and transactional authority. Transactional authority may be, negotiators, enabling participating states to coordinate redevelopment initiatives and stabilization planning through formally recognized implementation structures. So bringing in a bunch of people to get it done, but it has nothing to do with killing more Palestinians. They've killed pretty much most of them already. Such operational entities may be required to manage redevelopment funding streams, coordinate infrastructure restoration products, support the establishment of civil administrative services, and provide logistical oversight during the stabilization phase. The authorization to establish legally recognized implementation bodies suggests that participating states may utilize structured financial and administrative mechanisms to ensure that reconstruction initiatives proceed in accordance with the redevelopment framework endorsed by the Security Council. Now, the resolution also provides for the possibility that member states and participating bodies may enter into agreements addressing privileges and immunities for personnel associated with stabilization operations referenced elsewhere in the comprehensive plan, meaning other people can join in. It's not closed off. It's not secret. It doesn't look like a closed off secret thing. And I don't see where Trump is going to be the president for the rest of his life. Maybe, but again, speculation. So this provision reflects the anticipated deployment of security support mechanisms in the future, intended to assist with demilitarization efforts and the protection of the redevelopment activities during the transition period. So they're going to need some people to go in and take out the rest of the Hamas that is really just Mossad. And but really all it is just a security to continue to develop on their land with their people not in charge anymore. It's not, they'll call it Palestine, maybe, but it's not going to be controlled by Palestine anymore. Israel flattened it, ruined it for them, and those people are not going to be allowed to stay there. I mean, this is a resort. What are they going to do? Stay in the motels? Is that what the plan is? Where are all these people going? This whole redevelopment thing does not say anything about HUD, like housing, urban development, nothing like that. It's all about resorts, okay? It's about using the land for play. It doesn't say anything about what they're going to do with the remaining people in Palestine, because probably there aren't any. So taken together, these provisions indicate that the redevelopment of Gaza is expected to occur under a structured transitional administration supported by participating member states and coordinated through the Board of Peace until governance can be securely returned to reformed Palestinian authorities in accordance with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. Now, Jared Kushner is involved in this because he is Trump's right-hand man when it comes to negotiation and bringing in peace deals. Well, this was the deal to get Israel to stop stop just murdering people. Let's get in and let's put in a resort, and then we'll call it a day. Because it's not looking good for Trump's presidency. So he's got to send in Jared Kushner to bring in an offer. So Israel is going to be a major stakeholder. It's not going to look like it because they invited all those other countries. But hey, remember, Trump's the king. Israel made him king. So he's the king, and the king is going to give Israel a big chunk of the resort money. So the designation of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration within the Resolution 2803, it introduces a specific form of governance commonly in post-conflict redevelopment frameworks. So they're using an older plan to put into here, which everyone recognizes, and it's normal. So that doesn't say anything about secrecy. And a transitional administration refers to an interim institutional structure established for a defined period of time to coordinate reconstruction, stabilization, and governance reform following the cessation of hostilities until locally recognized authorities are able to resume full administrative responsibility. So between now and the next 3 years, while Trump's still president, they're just going to start cleaning it up and start breaking ground on this whole thing, right? And then whatever happens after Trump comes in, you never know. The BOP thing may just go away, and if a Democrat comes in, that means China is back in control, and they're going to rival against the Orsini clan. Now, in this context, the transitional administration is not intended to function as a permanent governing body. It doesn't say that. Nor does it replace existing sovereign institutions. Instead, it provides a structured coordination mechanism through which redevelopment funding, infrastructure restoration, and civil administrative support can be managed during the recovery phase. In other words, they're just going to create a bank. And this arrangement allows participating states and implementing bodies to oversee reconstruction initiatives in accordance with the comprehensive plan while local governance institutions undergo reform and capacity development. So the moment they sign this off and everyone's in agreement, then Israel will stop killing Palestinians and go ahead and rebuild the Disneyland that they want. And they're going to profit off it because you get to go visit the Holy Land, stay in Gaza. And I can see the commercials now, on top of all the blood of the innocent. So the UK parliamentary briefing further indicates that the transitional phase will involve the establishment of a technocratic Palestinian governing committee responsible for managing public services, municipal systems, and redevelopment programs within Gaza. Technocratic Palestinian, okay? Establishment of a technocratic Palestinian. What does that even mean? Well, we don't know yet, but what it looks like to me is they're going to have AI, and it's going to have a Palestinian. This is just an opinion, but it could be a AI with a Palestinian Authority, and it is going to oversee all of this stuff for managing public services, municipal systems, and redevelopment programs within Gaza. It's a technocratic Palestinian, and it only says Palestinian, singular. So is it going to be one person who is a technocratic leader? I don't think so. I think it's going to be all done under AI to put together a smart city that everyone can visit and basically want to live in, and have everyone, build the same thing in their cities. Just an idea. So the committee is expected to operate under board oversight during the interim period, facilitating the restoration of essential infrastructure and administrative functions while broader stabilization and reform measures are implemented. Now, such a governance structure typically assumes responsibility for coordinating redevelopment priorities, supporting the reestablishment of municipal services, managing reconstruction funding streams, and ensuring that infrastructure restoration proceeds in accordance with agreed upon planning frameworks. Now, during this phase, redevelopment initiatives may include the rebuilding of transportation networks, railways, trains, not big trains, but, people moving railways, transportation networks, utilities, public service institutions, and economic support programs intended to stabilize civil administration and facilitate long-term recovery. So basically, it doesn't say anything about housing them, but it does say they're going to move them around in public transportation. The purpose of such an arrangement is to support continuity of governance during a period in which pre-existing administrative structures may lack the institutional capacity or security conditions necessary to manage redevelopment independently. By coordinating funding, redevelopment planning, and stabilization efforts through a transitional administrative framework, participating states, like Kazakhstan, seek to establish conditions conducive to the eventual transfer of governance authority back to Palestinian institutions following the completion of reform. Benchmarks outlined in the comprehensive plan. So they're going to give it back to some technocratic Palestinian. In addition, transitional administration may provide oversight of humanitarian aid distribution, economic revitalization initiatives, and public work programs during the redevelopment phase, ensuring that reconstruction resources are applied in accordance with international legal principles and redevelopment objectives. So this coordination role can extend to working with cooperating organizations, including the United Nations agencies and international relief bodies, in order to support stabilization efforts and maintain the continuity of essential services. So that throws the whole, we're going to replace the United Nations, out the window. This interim administrative model is designed to function for the duration of the redevelopment phase and to dissolve or transfer authority upon the successful reestablishment of reformed local governance capable of maintaining civil, administrative, and public services without external oversight as envisioned within the staged transition framework endorsed by the Security Council. So they're going to give the rights back to a Palestinian technocrat. And the technocrat Palestinian, technocratic Palestinian is going to be controlling this whole thing after the transition. Why bother even talking about that? Look, Trump has enough power to go in there and say, "Nah, we're gonna replace the United Nations." He could do that, but he's not doing that. That's not what I see. That's not what it's looking like. In addition to redevelopment planning and funding coordination, the post-conflict framework endorsed by the United Nations Security Council provides for the establishment of a Palestinian governing committee, which could be technocratic Palestinian singular committee, responsible for managing Gaza's civil administration during the transitional period. And according to the UK's parliamentary briefing, this committee is intended to be composed of technocratic representatives tasked with overseeing municipal services, public utilities, and reconstruction initiatives throughout the redevelopment phase. So that means there'll be more than one technocratic Palestinian controlling the city after they start building. The designation of this governing body as technocratic indicates that its composition is expected to be based on administrative and professional expertise rather than political affiliation or factional leadership. So they're going to be just technocratic city developers. The Palestinians controlling are not going to be politicians or leaders when it comes to anything that has to do with fighting for their country or Palestine, because it's over. Palestine lost. Hamas lost. Okay, Gaza's now under full control of Israel through this quasi-international idea of a board of peace to throw us off of all of the murders and into this thing that they're building, which is a pile of shit on top of the blood of 70% of all women, children, and senior citizens. So its responsibilities may include the management of infrastructure restoration projects. These are the Palestinian technocrats, coordination of public service delivery, oversight of redevelopment programs, and implementation of economic revitalization measures designed to stabilize local governance during the interim period. Now, this governing committee is expected to operate under the oversight of the Board of Peace, which will coordinate funding streams, redevelopment priorities, and stabilization planning in accordance with the comprehensive plan endorsed by the Security Council. And during the transition phase, the committee may serve as the primary civil administrative authority within Gaza, facilitating the reestablishment of municipal systems, like legal systems, courthouses, etc., while broader governance reforms are implemented within the Palestinian Authority. Now, in practical terms, the interim administration of public services may include oversight of water distribution systems, electrical grid restoration, waste management infrastructure, transportation networks, and healthcare facilities during the redevelopment process, meaning it's turning into a city, not a United Nations area to compete, right? These services are essential for maintaining continuity of civil life and supporting the broader reconstruction initiatives anticipated within the redevelopmental network and framework. Now, the framework anticipates that governance responsibilities will remain within the interim structure until the Palestinian Authority has completed the reform benchmarks necessary to resume effective administrative control, which would be plan number 3, because they already executed part 1, they executed part 2. Now they're now executing part 2 or plan 2. The third one's coming. So these reforms may include institutional restructuring, administrative capacity development, financial oversight mechanisms, and governance measures intended to support the long-term stability of civil administration within the territory. And why I'm telling all of you guys this is because it's important we understand what's really going on, and we don't jump to conclusions and, assume, which makes an ass out of you and me. Ass, you, me. Assume. Every time we jump to conclusions and assume and race to end of the world shit, it just leaves you guys in fear. And God doesn't want us to live in fear. He wants us to break this stuff down with logic. That's all. Break it down with logic. Quit freaking out. Now, in addition, the governing committee may coordinate with cooperating organizations, including the United Nations. It says it may, and international relief bodies in order to support humanitarian aid distribution to all of the ones that are left over from the genocide. Redevelopment planning and public work programs during the transition phase. Now, this coordination is intended to ensure that reconstruction resources are allocated effectively and in coordinates with international legal principles throughout the redevelopment process. Oh, and by the way, out of all the research I've done on this, this is the most thorough investigative work I've seen yet on BOP. Nobody has even, literally wrote 10,000 words like I did to show you the entire structure. All we see are just little blips and blap, and then, fingers pointing saying we're all going to die, hate the right. But this actually shows what's really going on. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm talking about here. Now, the establishment of a technocratic governing committee reflects an effort to separate redevelopment administration from political processes during the Reconstruction period, allowing for a restoration of essential services and infrastructure while governance reforms proceed within Palestinian institutions. So this approach is intended to facilitate continuity of public administration during the redevelopment phase, while supporting the eventual transfer of governance authority back to reformed local leadership in accordance with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. So they're giving it back to them. In addition to redevelop, but they're giving it back to who? The ones that they control? Probably. Now, in addition to redevelopment planning and transitional civil administration, the comprehensive plan endorsed by the United Nations Security Council anticipates the establishment of an international stabilization force, to support demilitarization from the war and security during Gaza's reconstruction phase. Now, according to the UK parliamentary briefing, this force is intended to operate alongside redevelopment initiatives in order to provide security guarantees for infrastructure restoration, humanitarian operations, and the reestablishment of municipal governance systems during the transition period. Meaning they're going to hold the people back who are protesting and protect the people working on creating the resort. Screw the people, okay? It has nothing to do with Palestinians. All of this has to do with resort. The role of such stabilization force would typically include monitoring ceasefire compliance, supporting the decommissioning of weapons held by non-state actors, and ensuring that redevelopment projects and public service restoration efforts can proceed without interference from armed groups. So this may involve securing key infrastructure sites, transportation corridors, administrative facilities, and humanitarian distribution centers during the transition period in which civil governance is being reconstituted under technocratic oversight. So they're going to send in I forgot that army, that not BlackRock, but anyway, it's an army you can hire. Okay, they're just going to hire an army of just special ops, all retired special ops, and they're going to go in there without any real supervision against them, and they're going to clean up and kill the rest of the Palestinians. Resolution 2803 further authorizes member states participating in the Board of Peace to enter into arrangement necessary to implement the objectives of the comprehensive plan, including those addressing privileges and immunities for personnel. Remember, I'm reading. This is what they're implementing on paper, okay? But what they really want to do, I just kind of jump in and say it myself. But I'm not, I'm just guessing, right? But the stuff that I'm reading, this is exactly what they say, and the United Nations and the UK all agreed with it, is what they're really doing. Now, this authorization reflects the expectation that security personnel may be deployed in support of demilitarization, stabilization, and reconstruction activities during Gaza's transition phase. So send in the paid army. They're just going to be, a handful, 100, 200, probably 200 special forces retired people who are going to basically go through the rest of Palestinian homes and take away their guns and kill if necessary. Such arrangements may include agreements between participating states and the host authorities addressing operational coordination, legal protections, and rules of engagement applicable to stabilization personnel during the redevelopment process. Now, these protections are commonly associated with multinational stabilization missions and are intended to facilitate the secure implementation of reconstruction initiatives while maintaining compliance with international legal principles. I hate reading all this. It's all legalese, but unfortunately, this is all the information we got on it. All of it. Now, the presence of a stabilization force with hired guns within this framework would be expected to support the restoration of civil administration and infrastructure by maintaining a secure operating environment for redevelopment activities. Meaning, get in there, get the rest of Hamas, which don't even exist. Just kill the rest of the people off. That's what I think. I can't prove it, but hey, I saw genocide with my own eyes and via videos and what's going on in Gaza. But the leaders don't want you to know that. Reconstruction efforts in post-conflict environments frequently require coordinated security support in order to prevent disruption of public works projects, to ensure continuity of municipal services, and protect humanitarian assistance from diversion or interference. So when they send this international body in, this group of warriors who are all retired, no one's going to actually oversee them. So that is a problem. That should be addressed. Who takes responsibility if they murder a Palestinian? Now, in practical terms, stabilization operations during the transition phase may include the protection of construction sites, public utilities, transportation networks, and administrative facilities undergoing restoration as part of the redevelopment plan. Such security measures are intended to ensure that reconstruction initiatives proceed in accordance with agreed-upon planning frameworks and timelines while civil governance institutions are being reestablished under technocratic oversight. Now, the deployment of stabilization personnel may also support the reestablishment of essential services by providing security for the restoration of water distribution systems, electrical grid infrastructure, healthcare facilities, educational institutions, and public transportation networks during the redevelopment process. Remember, this whole place is flattened. They're going to start from scratch, okay? Watchman says, we need something positive to take away from this. There is no positive unless you want, I don't know, to stay in Gaza in 10 years as a resort and go swim in the Red Sea? Yeah. So these services are critical to maintaining civil continuity and supporting the economic revitalization initiatives anticipated within the comprehensive plan endorsed by the Security Council. There's a bunch of billionaires taking over. They're going to turn it into a resort. Now, in addition to infrastructure protection, stabilization forces may assist these stabilization forces, okay, these are hired guns, with monitoring compliance with demilitarization provisions outlined within the redevelopment framework, which The framework that they have, there's not a lot of information. It's just real simple wording. They can do a lot of shit that we don't know and get away with it. This may involve the oversight of weapons decommissioning processes, verification of ceasefire adherence, and coordination with local administrative authorities to ensure that redevelopment activities are not compromised by ongoing security threats. Meaning, go out, get rid of the rest of them. Now, the stabilization presence is anticipated to function for a duration of the transition period during period number 2. Within the objective of enabling the eventual transfer of governance authority back to the reformed Palestinian institutions who are controlling those, we don't know, once redevelopment benchmarks and demilitarization conditions have been satisfied. The phased withdrawal or reassignment of stabilization personnel would typically coincide with the restoration of effective local administrative capacity and the reestablishment of civil governance structures capable of maintaining public order without external oversight, without external oversight, without external oversight. Maintaining public order without external oversight. I had to repeat that because these warriors that are coming in, if they're hothead drunks, look out. So taken together, the anticipated deployment of an international stabilization force reflects the broader objective of supporting Gaza's redevelopment within a secure transitional framework, ensuring that reconstruction initiatives and governance reforms proceed in accordance with the objectives of the comprehensive plan until governance responsibilities can be securely returned to reformed Palestinian authorities. Okay. I still have like another 40 minutes of material here. Look. That video, I think, was put out to take your eyes off of this private army that they're hiring. Okay? That's what I see. That's the big problem that I see. There's no oversight for them. This little private army is going to finish the job that Israel started. Because they're not building any housing and urban development projects. It's all resorts, hotels, just like Trump said it was going to be. And they have no oversight, meaning they're going to go in the middle of the night. They're going to slaughter people with no oversight. Blackwater was the company I was thinking of. Blackwater. They were hired guns, all ex-military, hire them for millions to go in without a flag and blow shit up. Well, that's what this thing says to me. Watchman says, would be good if you played B-roll over what you're talking about. What do you mean B-roll? I don't understand. But that's what I see going on. I see that there still are Palestinians left, and they are going to mess with the technocratic Palestinian, which says singular. Again, all the documentation is still so vague, right? All right. I don't know if we're going to get through all of this stuff. In addition to authorizing redevelopment planning and stabilization support, United Nations Council Security Resolution established the legal framework through which participating member states and the Board of Peace may implement the objectives of the comprehensive plan during Gaza's transition phase, but they don't have to. They may. The resolution authorizes member states participating in the Board of Peace as well as the board itself to enter into arrangements necessary to achieve the objective of redevelopment of governance transition within the territory. So, yeah. Watchman says, I don't want to hear what they take away. All they done is take away from us what we can do. What's the value of even understanding it when it's better to just focus on making the world a better place? I'm just reporting what this whole thing is. I'm not telling you what to do or how to feel or think, but I am telling you that the only thing we can do, because I can't stop Trump. You can't change a government. You can try, You can't stop corruption. You can try, but the only thing that you can do is pray. Prayer goes a long way. It really does. And you can pray that the Palestinians are protected during this phase. You can pray that God sends laborers and war angels to bring them into some underground tunnel to get them out of that place because they're no longer wanted. Watchman says, a wound heals by moving on and forgetting about it. Same way a plant grows, focusing on the movement and making the best of it, not lingering on the past. It's what Christ commands us to do. So you're saying that let's go ahead and move on. All of the 1 million Palestinians that I think is the real number that's been murdered, we'll just move on. This was genocide in front of the world's face, and Israel has not taken any responsibility or accountability to it. I think that Christian warriors need to know who Israel is because, hey, we're not to support Israel, okay? The real Israel and the real temple is you. You are holding the Holy Ghost inside of you. And it's important for us as watchmen to expose evil. And that's what I'm doing. Because out of this report and everything you're going to hear on the news, they are not going to talk about the Blackwater company they're going to hire to go in there and exterminate the rest of the Palestinians. So the designation of these operational entities as possessing international legal personality indicates that they may be empowered to enter into contracts, management, redevelopment funding, coordinate infrastructure restoration projects, and facilitate the implementation of public works programs during the transition phase. Now, this legal standing allows participating bodies to conduct redevelopment activities in accordance with international recognized administrative frameworks while supporting the objectives outlined in the comprehensive plan. That basically means anybody can come in and anyone can invest. And it's an open book. It's not closed. Watchman says, would, but had a near-death experience with alcohol, not doing it again. Bad for your health. I did too. I was in the hospital. They said they don't give healthy livers to drunks. And they said modern medicine can't save you. If you believe in God, you better pray. That's what I got when I was in the hospital. So taken together, the legal authority granted within Resolution 2803 provides the institutional basis for the creation of administrative and financial structures capable of implementing redevelopment and stabilization initiatives under a transitional governance framework, legally, internationally, ensuring that reconstruction efforts proceed in accordance with internationally endorsed planning objectives until local governance institutions are prepared to resume full administrative responsibilities. So the redevelopment framework outlined within the October 2025 comprehensive plan. Hey, I'll tell you what, Watchman, I am focusing on a cause. This is going to be a cause for the rest of the murdering of the Palestinian people. I mean, the symptom is talking about the future of what Gaza is going to be. But the cause, the real cause behind the Board of Peace is to eliminate the rest of the Palestinians so Israel can control that area. But hey, you know what you can do? You can go get your own show and then tell that host what to do, you know, while you're on your own show, and have other people tell you what to do. So I take offense when people tell me how to do my show when I feel that the Lord is telling me to put this information out there. So, and I'm kind of a little on the edge from this dude last night who basically came on and just literally went after me about my sources. And I'm like, I can't do much about that. My sources are in my information. I do a show every day. That means 360, almost I would say 300 shows a year. I can't remember all the sources of all those shows. So the redevelopment framework outlined within the comprehensive plan, it anticipates participation of multiple member states. And the involvement of participating member states within this framework reflects a multinational approach to post-conflict redevelopment. And participating states may contribute to redevelopment efforts through financial support, logistical coordination, technical expertise, and administrative assistance during the transition period. Meaning it's going to create jobs. And Trump's going to say, I've created jobs in Gaza. Such contributions may include not jobs for the Palestinians. Boots says it was Vern. Yeah, Vern. So such contributions may include the provision of funding for infrastructure restoration, engineering support for public works projects, advisory services for municipal administration, and coordination of economic revitalization initiatives intended to stabilize civil governance within Gaza during reconstruction. And also, Watchmen, have you seen any of my other videos? Most of my videos right now are about breaking down the Ethiopian canon versus the King James canon. So then Watchman says, we have a limited time in the world when we meet our maker. It's better, we say, to spend our time making the world a better place. It's all we can do. Well, loving your neighbor is what I preach. But Watchman, you came in here like right during one of the shows that I rarely do, which I talk about, politics and, international conflict. But most of my shows have all been about learning about how to walk and speak with God. So don't judge and assume just based off what you see. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? So I do believe I have been addressing through the 700 shows I've done now, the cause before the symptom. And if you want, you can go read some of my books. All of my books are online for free. I wrote 6 of them, and I'm writing another one. Currently, that's going to teach you all about Jesus's posture. So the multinational composition of participating states may also support the establishment of redevelopment priorities consistent with the international planning frameworks, ensuring that reconstruction initiatives proceed in accordance with agreed upon timelines and redevelopment objectives. Again, we're just kind of going in circles here, circle after circle after circle after circle. But the role of the United Nations within the redevelopment framework outlined in the Resolution 2803, it differs from traditional peacekeeping or reconstruction missions in which the United Nations agencies directly administer post-conflict recovery efforts. So it does differ from the norm, okay? Because they are going to have limited oversight, but they are welcome to speak their opinion. That's what I see. In this instance, the Security Council has endorsed the comprehensive plan and welcomed the establishment of the Board of Peace as a transitional administration tasked with coordinating redevelopment funding and governance transition within Gaza during the interim period. So the endorsement from the UN, it reflects the Security Council's recognition of the redevelopment framework here and its stated objectives, while implementation responsibilities are anticipated to be carried out by participating member states operating through the administrative and operational mechanisms authorized under the resolution. And such agreements and arrangements may include the creation of implementation entities possessing international legal personality in order to facilitate reconstruction initiatives, stabilization planning, and governance support measures throughout the transitional phase. So that means the United Nations may continue to participate in humanitarian assistance. They're able to participate when they couldn't during the war. Okay, so that's what it's saying. The UK Parliament, their briefing, they say that some governments have expressed concern that the mandate assigned to the Board of Peace may overlap with functions traditionally carried out by the United Nations peacebuilding or reconstructive bodies. Meaning the UK parliamentary briefing says, hey, you're not doing it like the United Nations normally does it, so we have concerns about that. And these concerns reflect questioning regarding the administrative relationship between the transitional framework and the existing international institutions during Gaza's redevelopment phase. So the United Nations is saying, look, we don't know if you're going to go in there and just start killing people while you're building instructions and burying them in the concrete. And the Board of Peace is saying, trust us. And UK Parliament saying, well, they could do it without even anybody knowing it, because they're going to hire an international group to provide security. Well, an international group can be anything, anything you want it to be, as long as it's not a group of Israelites in uniform, right? Watchmen, stop. You're interrupting my show. Go look at my previous shows. If you want to come in and participate in what we're talking about right now. That's all. I get, your type that come in all the time. And all it is just, it's disruptive. I do a show every night. I present information. I don't have time right now to tell you what my childhood was like. And I'm sorry that I am just not giving you what you need to fulfill your space and peace. And quite frankly, it's not my responsibility to make you happy. It's not my responsibility to give you joy. That's up to you. Now, I can love you by telling you these things, but going on to someone's show and not really participating, just offering your own thoughts, I think that's rude. Is that what Jesus would do? Would Jesus come on and say, hey, we have limited time, people, repent? Or would he participate? I think he would participate. Trying to talk to you, sorry. You want to talk to me? Shoot me an email. My email is me@jamescarner.com. Then you can talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you. But I'm live right now. This is a live show. If you want to talk and you got things to talk about on your mind, I'd be happy to send me an email at me@jamescarner.com, or go to my website, jamescarner.com. You'll see my email there. Or you can even request an interview with me for free. And it'll send you a Zoom link, and I will talk to you on Zoom. I think I'm very open. I'm paying for Zoom so you guys can talk to me for free, because I don't charge you guys for anything. I just do these stories because I think it's important to make sure that everyone understands that, hey, dude, we're not all going to die. This is all bullshit, okay? What Trump is doing is he's cleaning up the mess of Israel, and there you have it. So I'm gonna conclude here. A video that's been circling around saying that something called the Board of Peace is being created to replace the United Nations and to take control of Gaza. Well, that claim has confused a lot of people and raised some serious questions about what is actually happening. Well, we're not guessing here. We're not relying on rumors. I went to the actual documents, and this is what it came out with. And it's just a bunch of legalese crap that basically says, look, we're going to bring in our own international body of people with guns, and we're going to protect our investment. That's what it says. And they're going to build resorts. That's what it says. Watchman says, what's the point to a live show if you can't talk, if you can't talk to you? Well, maybe I should have a live segment to talk to people then. I have a show, and I have a certain way that I do the show. This isn't a talk show. This is a live show, and it doesn't have to go your way. And I'm done talking to you. So I didn't rely on rumors. I didn't guess. I just grabbed the information and looked at it. And I went through the actual documents, and what I found is that the Board of Peace is not being created to replace the United Nations. It's not. Instead, it's being set up as a temporary group to help rebuild Gaza after the war. That's it. I'm sorry. Trump is not the Antichrist. He may be a Antichrist, but he's not the Antichrist, and neither is Jared Kushner. Nobody likes him either. Remember, the Antichrist is going to be led by all, not some, not the left or the right. So instead, it's being set up as a temporary group. It's just temporary. to rebuild Gaza after the war. And its job would be to help organize money, rebuilding projects, and basic services like water, power, and hospitals while things get back on their feet. But there are concerns, major concerns. That's what I pointed out already tonight. And the plan that we've seen on paper is for this to happen during a transition period, the second transition. They've already went through the first phase. This is phase 2. And that means it's not meant to be forever. So why are we panicking over this? And during that time, local Palestinian leaders would slowly take back control as their systems are rebuilt and reformed. That's what the documentation says. Yeah, I get it. Oh, well, they could lie. Sure. But there's also talk about an international security force being there for a while to help keep the peace so rebuilding can happen without more fighting destroying what's being built. Right, I addressed that too. They could basically kill with immunity because they have no direct oversight. So that's a problem, I see. But here's the important part. Some of the claims made in the video, like the board having total control of replacing the UN or acting as some kind of private world government, are not found in the documents that I reviewed tonight, period. What the documents do describe is a temporary setup meant to help manage the rebuilding until local governments can take over again. So while there is a real plan for Gaza's future rebuilding, the idea that this board is replacing the United Nations or becoming a permanent new global authority, it's not supported by any evidence that I've seen so far. And that doesn't mean that there aren't questions worth asking, no. But it does mean that we should base those questions on what's actually written down. Let's not freak out here. Not just what is being said in the viral video, okay? And I really do think this show is important because, these videos are put together so clever that they tug on your emotions and they freak you out and you lose perspective on your trust in Jesus Christ. That's all. So there you have it. This has been Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in tomorrow night when God gives me another revelation to tell you guys all about. God bless you. God keep you. God keep you. God thank you. Everything that I can ever say. I do love you, but I also don't really appreciate people interrupting my show. I think it's rude.
This has been Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner. Go to his website, jamescarner.com, and sign up for his newsletter. Also, download his free books on the breath war, the crown of blood, and the ritual machine. Fix your body by buying his award-winning detox formula, removing heavy metals and parasites. You'll feel better and live longer. Go to elitepotion.com. And one more thing, please. Just try and love your neighbor, because if you do, the world would be a better place. See you tomorrow.